Are you a business owner looking for real advice and input? You're in the right place. From concept to launch to growth, funding, and beyond. Welcome to Startup Hustle with your hosts. One once sold a business for $150 million. The other, the author of $1 Million Bedroom. Here are your hosts of Startup Hustle, Matt DeCoursey and Matt Watson.
And we're back. Another episode of Startup Hustle. Matt DeCoursey here with Matt Watson. Hi, Matt.
What's going on, man?
Welcome back.
I'm back.
I'm glad to have you back, and we're back with another episode of Startup Hustle that is brought to you by Fullscale.io.
Woohoo!
Yeah, got that right this time.
This is an exciting topic today.
It is. We're here with two of my favorite entrepreneurs from the Kansas City area, people we partner with and do stuff with, and really experts on today's subject, which is content marketing. So today we have Brock Steckman and Brody Dorland, the co-founders of DivvyHQ. Is this true, guys?
Hey-o, yes.
I like it.
So.
Yeah.
I like it.
I think that's
Sounds
still
right.
true.
That was Brody. That was strong. Can we get that again?
Hey-o.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Don't teach Watson how to do that. Actually, Watson, you've got a few of those.
I've got some
on the
tricks.
influencer marketing one, you've got a really baseful boom. So
I've got some tricks.
anyway, you guys are the founders of DivvyHQ. For those of you listening, you know we love it when you're interactive. So go to DivvyHQ.com and check it out. Guys, what's up?
Hey there.
Nice to be here.
Give us a minute on what you guys do at Divvy.
Your turn? My turn? Your
Yeah,
turn?
I can go. Yeah, so we've been around since 2011. Startup here, based here in Kansas City, and essentially what we are, to put it in kind of plain terms, we're a content marketing platform that makes it really easy for companies to plan all of their marketing projects, create better content, and ultimately, right, what that's all for is to build your audience, increase engagement, trying to increase website traffic, which ultimately is going to help drive leads to the company and help you grow.
Okay, so as we get into this whole topic, let's define what content marketing is, because in some ways what you're listening to right now is the definition of content marketing.
Yeah.
DivvyHQ specializes more in the written word. Is that fair? Like the blog traffic. I mean, you can use it for about anything, but
Yeah.
that's where it started, right?
Yeah, and a lot of that's driven by the how much Google has really shifted the whole, I guess you could say the evolution of marketing was really driven largely by Google. Today Google is basically the gatekeeper for so much of our economy. When you think about anything that you want to buy, probably the first place you go is doing some research on Google. And just typing in a simple keyword phrase, you're going to be given results, and those results are driven by content on websites. So because of that, any company that's wanting to rank highly in any kind of search term or phrase that is important to them, matches their product, service categories, those kinds of things, you need to have good content on websites. And as Google has evolved and adjusted their algorithms and all of those things, so much of their algorithms are reliant on keyword-rich content, but also the volume of content that Google sees from your site, the authority that your site has as a whole on these topics, and all of that, it just requires a certain volume and frequency of content, and a lot of it is written on a regular basis. Now, as they've also evolved, they do account for video content, audio content, a lot of the other channels, the social signals that come from it. A social post, seeing traffic coming from a social post back to a website, and then it converts. That's a social signal that Google is, it's part of Google's algorithm. They want to see all of those signals in order to determine that this page, this piece of content on this website is high authority, it is good, it's quality, and we're going to then put it in our search results.
There's one universal truth in this world now. If you want to know about anything, you go to Google and you search for it.
True.
Absolutely.
I was in the Philippines a couple days ago. I want to know when the sunrise was. So what do I Google? When is the sunrise in the city?
Yep.
Right? Or what is the weather? Or you can go to Google and type 3 + 5 and it'll tell you, right? I mean, it's a universal knowledge engine of everything in our lives. And as a business, if you have content that is relevant to whatever those words are, you better well damn rank on Google for those words if you want to get business.
Let's get this out there. Matt, at Stackify over the last 2 years, you've built a blog through content marketing on Stackify that has in some months exceeded 1 million visits.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of what you're trying to do, right, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so...
He is a perfect case study.
Yeah, right. So now I will tell you the story of how I saw this evolve. When Matt and it was maybe only the second time we'd ever met, I interviewed him for one of my books. And we talked about that a little bit, but he started telling me about a strategy he was working on, a content marketing strategy. And he said, I'm spending $50,000 a month on cost per click. I said, cost per click's a lot like crack. It's easy to get addicted to it. It gets you high really fast. And when it's gone, you're like, God, I want more. Don't know that from firsthand experience. I just, I've watched movies. But with that, Matt explained to me that he was he had been engaging in a long-term content marketing strategy. And over the last couple of years, I've watched you grow that to the point where it's like remarkably significant.
It's very impressive.
And Matt, can you talk about some of the things that you think are important? Because you have a strategy that involves quality,
right,
and length and stuff like that. It's not just, as Brody likes to say, you're not a spam cannon.
Well, and so let's first back up just a little bit, and I'll tell you, at Stackify, we tried to do a lot of different types of advertising and marketing in the early days, right? We did some cost per click. We did lead generation stuff where we would buy leads, people who would download white papers, email blasts, like sponsoring newsletters. We tried all sorts of different kinds of advertising, right? And didn't have a lot of success with any of it. The customer acquisition costs were very high. And use the cost per click stuff as an example. Today, Stackify does a little bit of that, but it's really just a very small handful of keywords that work for us. You can't get a lot of volume out of it. It doesn't scale. And we found this book called Traction, and it's about, I think, like 18 different traction channels. Mm-hmm. And there are things like writing a book or content marketing or being a speaker or just all these different, cold calling people, like all these different tractions, like channels to engage potential customers, right? And there were a couple of them on there that really spoke well to us. One was content marketing, which we'd had some success with, but had not really bet the whole farm on it. And then the other one was something for us that was called engineering as marketing, which was like creating a free tool. Like a free tool was another traction channel, and we were successful with that too. But back when we first had that conversation, you mentioned like 2 years ago, that's when we're like, you know what, we've seen a lot of success.
It was 2.5 years ago.
On the content
Almost
marketing.
3, yeah.
And we're like, we're going to really double down on this. And that, from then on out, was like our entire focus, was the content marketing. And we started out, we were publishing 2 or 3 blog posts a week. We went really crazy for a while, and we were doing 4, 5, 6 a week, like almost every day.
Now, these are different. These aren't just like a quick post either. I mean, these were well-written, researched, thought-out topics. I mean, like authority-level stuff about high-level...
Which it should be.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And part of the... Back to the reason we did this for Stackify is our customers are software developers. Mm-hmm. They hate advertisements. They hate spam. They hate all of that stuff. Like most of them... work in the basement with a tinfoil hat on, and they don't trust anybody, and especially advertisements. But there's that one universal truth. If they have a question, they go to Google and they search for it, right? So if they go to Google and they search, Ruby logging best practices or .NET performance optimization or whatever it is, if Stackify shows up in the top few search results, it drives traffic to our website and inevitably drives customers. And so we're very focused on identifying all of those keywords that are, a lot of them are more top of the funnel, so they're people that are our audience. They're not necessarily that people that are ready to buy something today, but a lot of times it's just our audience, getting our audience to our website, knowing who we are.
You use Divvy to organize all this, don't you?
Yep, we have used Divvy a lot for that.
Nicely done, Matt.
Ultimately,
Very
I mean,
nice.
when you're
Hang on, let me get my click. Hang on.
when you're, especially if you're doing.
That was a 3-pointer. That was a 3. Yeah.
Back to the point of the type of content that we create is we're very focused on quality, right? So I feel like if you go to Google and you search for something and you want to rank for that, I look at whatever they search for as the question, and you need to have the best answer possible. If you have the best answer possible, Google will figure it out, and you will rank in the top, 3, 4, 5, or whatever. It's not necessarily about spamming and keyword stuffing and over-optimization and all this craziness. All those things help a little bit, but ultimately, you have to answer the question better than anybody else. That is the first priority. You have to have the best answer. Now, if you have the best headings and all that kind of crap for SEO, that's good too. But if you don't answer the question better than anybody else, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to know on that is you don't want to just think about building value for Google. You ultimately want to build value for the reader, right? So whoever goes to read that blog post, and you want to make sure that you are answering that question the best. So then that builds a lot of trust in your audience, right? And they're going to keep coming back, and they're going to want to
love our
read
content.
more content. They're going to keep coming back, and then one day, when they have a need for your services, they may go, look, I'm familiar with Stackify. They're clearly the experts on this topic. I think we should go with them.
I've never heard of Stackify. Is that Stackify.com?
Stackify.com, yeah.
Cha-ching.
The most annoying thing, though, is to be at a, we'll go to Microsoft Build, and we'll have a trade show booth there, and it's Microsoft's big conference of the year. And people come up to us like, oh, I thought you guys were just a blog. I didn't know that you had a product.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
But that's tough. So
that happens sometimes. But it's okay.
All right. So Matt, congrats again, and that's been fun to watch because you definitely got yourself off of crack.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We get about $100,000 to $200,000 a month in value from the advertising and marketing of the traffic we get to our blog. It's worth $100,000 to $200,000
So think about that, and the way that, and I've had a chance to talk to Brock and Brody about this. So you look at each of those items as an asset for the business, and that's something that you got at Divvy. Once again, DivvyHQ.com. You guys, that's a big part of what you guys believe in. You guys want to talk about why those are assets?
Yeah, I mean, it's essentially a core tenet of content marketing when you understand that the practice it's almost a mindset shift that has to happen. When you think about several decades ago, the marketing function was really sales support and events and those kinds of things. Today, because of everything that we've been talking about, certainly the prominence of Google in our economy, each piece of content that you create, when you think about you as a content team building assets for the business that are eventually going to pay dividends, they might not pay as quick a dividends as like a cost per click, AdWords type of scenario. It might not be that quick crack fix, but this piece of content now, whether it's evergreen or even something that's more timely, now having that out on the web in the world, that is going to pay dividends over time as Google finds it, as more people link to it. Certainly if it's an authoritative piece of content, other people will start referencing it in their content. Those are, again, more signals for Google, and that piece of content becomes something that can drive leads over a much longer period of time. And when you do that every day, a few times a day, depending on the frequency of the assets you're building and the team that you've built around it, all of that just adds up into this huge bank of assets for your business that is going to continually reap dividends for your organization in the forms of traffic, leads, what have you.
Well, and I
Googled asset because I felt like we needed to ask the question, and an asset is defined as property owned by a person or company regarded as having value and available to meet debts, commitments, or legacies. Also a useful or valuable thing, person, or quality. I mean, that is, so with Stackify and the amount of traffic, those are continuing to drive traffic. They provide value that you would have to replace by spending money somewhere else. And that's important. I mean, very much an asset.
Yeah, I think the important thing to talk about here too is it doesn't have to be difficult, right? I mean, when we start talking to new companies or even established companies and we start talking about content marketing in general, I mean, there's so many different things you can do when it comes to content marketing, right? Content can be anything. It could be ebooks, it could be social media, it could be podcast, right? It could be billboards, right? It could be radio spots. There's a lot of different things.
I mean, a friend of mine sells swimsuits, and for her, it's pictures on Instagram.
Yep. Yeah,
of her swimsuits.
And different things will work for different companies, right? It's whatever's going to resonate with your particular persona or buyer. Mm-hmm. But you can start simply, right? Like you're talking about all you're doing is blogging. You're blogging a lot. It's really good blog content, so that's creating a ton of traffic. Our story is very similar. I mean, we've been at this since 2011, and we practice what we preach. So we ourselves have produced a ton of content throughout the years in all different types, and we've experimented, we've tried different things, we've adapted. Ultimately, what we found is what performs the best for us is blogging and online paid media. And we don't spend a lot of money on online paid media, but we blog a lot.
Right. That's what.
And to your point, it's very good blog content. We spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah.
Well, and so that's what leads somebody like Stackify to needing a tool like Divvy. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you start out doing blogging, it's really easy to say, I want to write one blog post a week or whatever, and you do it. It gets a lot more complicated when you're trying to write 4 or 5 a week or whatever, because then you're potentially managing multiple writers.
Yep.
And then you get into like, well, who's going to create the feature images or the graphics for the blog? Who is going to do the proofreading of the blog? Is somebody on the product team going to review the blog post for product marketing and figure out, do we need to change the content at all to, better promote our product? All of a sudden you get multiple people involved.
It becomes
The
very
process
chaotic.
becomes very chaotic, right?
And that's where a content marketing platform like Divvy helps
Yes.
you out, and because you have to keep that organized, because you're talking about all these different irons in the fire and different things going on, and content marketing doesn't have to be hard, but for a lot of people it is hard. So anything that can keep you organized and on task and on schedule, or centralize things, because the time that you're going to spend going, did you do that image? Did you write that article?
Right,
Have you checked it? Did we edit it? When are we publishing it? Those are all.
Is it on time? Is it not on time?
Did we do it?
Do we have to rearrange the schedule?
Did we actually publish it? And all that. And well, you talk about rearranging the schedule. Sometimes we do that here at the podcast because we'll push something up in the publication schedule. But you have to be aware that could affect 10 other things.
Yes.
Do we have to redo 10 images now or different things? And stuff like that.
So,
Well,
so
in
you
the-
guys, I'm sorry. So you guys have that complication and stress as a, fairly small marketing team.
Well, not anymore because we use Divvy.
Well, there you go. But imagine how that stress and complication starts to multiply and get larger as the organization is larger.
Yeah.
And we're working with companies of all shapes and sizes, from startups, but the majority of our clients are large global enterprise
They've
brands.
got multiple business units, multiple product lines.
Regions.
They have
Yeah.
hundreds of people,
Yeah.
some thousands around the world who are involved in creating content
Right.
in some manner.
And there's layers of complication and approval and stuff like that come into play. Then that's important.
And how in the heck do you plan, manage,
Yeah.
do you collaborate on that?
I
with
mean, you
that?
probably have people that even use it to do content in different languages and stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
All the time.
No habla.
Translation and everything else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I use the Spanish language version of Divvy when I use it.
Oh, okay.
I'm having a hard time kind of getting most of it, but yeah.
Yeah, so just to kind of wrap a bow on this, the with the overall content process, as the volume increases, the volume of content you produce, and the number of people that are involved in the process, as that increases, the chaos and the complexity increases exponentially. So, certainly, a startup that is a one man or woman show that's running kind of the content process, they can get by with a spreadsheet or a Trello or something simple. But once you get 3, 4, 5, 6 up to hundreds of people, you've got to have something that is going to help you, and not just something, a dedicated, purpose-built solution that's going to manage the process the way it needs to be managed.
It's all the little tasks. That's the
Yep.
thing.
Well,
It's easy enough to have like a schedule of like, okay, this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever. But when you've got like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different tasks for each one of those,
Yep.
because of the proofreading, the graphics, the SEO optimization, all these different steps, it becomes a cluster.
Well, I think a lot of people start
Yep.
doing things like you said, like using a Google Sheet or Trello or something. And the problem is you end up with this like daisy chain
Oh yeah.
of stuff,
Yeah.
and that breeds a level of inefficiency and misunderstanding. Because now, if I have to log into 9 different things, well, first off, it's annoying, and second off, it's not. I mean, you have to look at when it comes to efficiency, you have to look at all the time to do things that it takes to do individual little tasks, and going and logging in somewhere and going and checking, and especially when you're doing it in singular doses, that's why some like franchises will say they're able to be more profitable with 100 units than with 10, because the same amount of effort that it takes to go log in and record line items for something doesn't take that much longer. It's the act of stopping what you're doing, going, logging in, checking things, logging out, going somewhere else, and that creating a central hub for anything is always a better way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of efficiency, right? I mean, we've already talked about content marketing can take up a lot of time. You just spoke to that. There are a lot of very manual, time-intensive steps involved in that. So what we're trying to do is find ways to simplify that and automate a lot of those steps to make it a lot easier for these marketers to work together, to collaborate, to message. So they're not jumping in and out of spreadsheets. They're not emailing each other back and forth. They don't have to sit in status meetings to figure out, well, is this project done? Is it going to get done on time? Where are things at? They just know.
So I think we should step back for a second, though, and talk for a little while about a startup or early stage company that wants to do content marketing, but they haven't really done it.
Yep.
And how they should get started. Because a lot of things we're talking about are more optimization, like, okay, we're doing this and we're trying to scale it and we're trying to grow it. But I think the hardest problem that people have is just like doing it to begin with. Like, how do I get started? Or they write a couple blog posts and then like a month goes by and then they don't do it anymore. Yep. And they stop doing it.
I think that's the most common anything when it comes to content.
Yep.
I said that to Brody before he came in, or before we recorded, and I talked to so many people. They're like, yeah, I tried content. I wrote 2 blogs and it didn't change my life.
Well, and so I think in general, it probably takes 60, 90 days for you're going to see any kind of results at all.
I mean,
what would you guys
that's even
say?
early.
To see any results.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting a little bit of traffic. So on the Full Scale blog, we publish, 2 or 3 articles a week?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Sometimes even more. It depends.
And we see some traffic from it, but it's a slow build. But I looked at our Google Analytics last week, and like you look at that chart over time, and it just grows and grows and grows and grows.
And we like to be really open. So, we just started doing this earlier. I don't know, we're getting in between 15, 20,000 visits a month. Like, that's traffic. It's nothing like what you've built at Stackify, but it's on the trajectory for doing that, and it results in leads. And like, people fill out our contact form. They say, hey, I'm looking for someone here, someone there. We've got clients all over the world that we met either from the podcast or the blog.
So we write a lot on the Full Scale blog about how to hire software developers or manage software development teams or a lot of different things like that. We wrote one article. It was about the shortage of software developers, something like that. And TechCrunch actually picked up our article and linked to our article. Yep. So that was like a really valuable backlink. Yeah. Like, that was awesome.
And once
that was
again, in
super cool.
transparency, that article gets about 1,500 visits a month.
Yep.
So, and now with that, I learned something from Watson. Now, this is a moment. I don't always admit it. I learn stuff from Matt all the time, but I don't always admit it. So a long time ago, Matt we were talking about the Stackify blog. He said, what we do is we go and look at what our top 10 most trafficked articles are, and then we improve them after.
Yep. We do the exact same thing.
And I was like, oh my God, that's like, okay, first off, let's go do that right now.
Repurpose, repackage.
Some of it was, on some of them in the Full Scale blog, all right, so we have maybe videos or podcasts that we have created on that same subject, so we may embed them or put links to them in there or create a better infographic or some of the stuff. Like, what's some of the stuff you guys do at Stackify still related to that?
We don't do a lot with video and infographics and stuff like that. Ours are more code samples. Okay. If anything is a lot of times it's like, how do I do logging with Ruby or something? So we'll have a lot of code samples or snippets and sometimes graphics from that sort of stuff. What you mentioned about the optimization thing, though, one of the best examples of this is we wrote an article about, it was like a checklist about DevOps. It was like a DevOps checklist. It was like what developers do versus what operations people do. We didn't think anything about it. 90 days go by, whatever. And I'm looking at some reporting, and I'm seeing this blog is getting a lot of traffic for the keyword DevOps tasks. Mm-hmm. The word tasks was not even in the blog post. And that actually was the number 1 keyword that was driving traffic. And so you talk about the optimization, that's like, oh, well, Google somehow figured out that when somebody types in the word DevOps task, that this content answered the question really well.
Yeah, the intent was there.
The intent was there, right? So I noticed that, and then I went back and I changed the blog post. Yep. So now the title is DevOps task. Yep. And I added DevOps task.
And it probably did even better.
And then it ranked even higher.
Yep.
And talk about the optimization of this, that's where this all can get really complicated, though, is knowing that, having the reporting to that stuff, knowing to do that. That's where all this gets a little overwhelming, though.
But I
honestly,
think
versus when you're like trying to start, you're like, how do I even just write the content?
Yep.
These are like next level sort of problems, optimization problems.
Yeah. So, you asked earlier, how do you get started? And, so much of just the initial strategy before you even get started putting pen on paper is understanding your audience, really digging into the persona of the audience. What are they going to care about? What are the different major topics that your products and services align with, but also align with the needs, interests, desires, of those buyers. So, obviously, Matt, you have probably several specific personas in terms of, they could be different job titles that are typically going to be the folks that are, that you're going after from a Stackify standpoint. So, getting into their heads, understanding the things that they do every day, the informational needs that they have, and breaking that down into a list of maybe high-level topics to start, and then underneath each of those topics, what are the subtopics that we should cover? I think it's kind of becomes a tree or a cluster that you can do, and then using that as kind of your basis for your content strategy going forward. Again, not really considering the formats that we're gonna do going forward, but just here's the content topics, the strategy that we're going to go for, and then we figure out how we're going to execute.
Well, and let's talk about that a little more, because I think the biggest problem that people have is figuring out what to write about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
So for Stackify, I feel like we have this giant universe of things, but depending on your type of business, like Nickel and Suede, they mostly sell earrings or whatever, right? So you're like, okay, what topics? We have one keyword, earrings or whatever, right? So it's trying to figure out what do they write about.
General. That's too general.
So for somebody like that, it's like they have to do a lot of brainstorming. Oh, we could write about fashion or this or that or whatever. So depending on the type of business, the type of topics that you're writing about is vastly different, and the volume of things you can write about can be vastly different.
Well, that's where data comes in, and the tools that we have at our disposal. So so something like a Google keyword research tool that's kind of baked into the AdWords. If you can start an account on there, and even just starting with a keyword like earrings, and seeing what spits out, starting to understand the different variations. Earrings for women, earrings for men, gold earrings, all of the different variations. And then you start, because it's your business and you understand what your offering is, you can start to understand how that data is going to then feed and inform your strategy going forward.
But then there's so many different types of articles that people don't even think about. And so I want to talk about that for a minute. So one of the things we have a lot of success with at Stackify is, for example, writing articles that are list. Or trends. So for earrings, it could be, fashion earring trends for 2019, or best places to buy earrings, or it could be a lot of different things like that are less obvious. One of the things that works really well that's a different kind of content marketing that's not necessarily for SEO is interviews.
Absolutely.
Like, I want to interview 20 fashion experts about earrings. And then actually I hope all of them will promote the blog post. So maybe I'm not relying as much on Google to drive the traffic, but I'm relying on all the people I interviewed to promote this article that then underneath of it is actually promoting my website and my brand. There's a lot of different strategies here that are all possible. A lot of angles.
Well, there's one very simple tactic that can help a lot of startups, right? Think about, well, how in the heck, what should we be writing about? And there's a kind of a top marketing thought leader strategist. His name is Marcus Sheridan, the Sales Lion. And a few years ago, he said, just think about the top 50 questions that your customers are asking you or prospects, and then just answer those. And then write a blog post about
And they don't need to be high volume. No. Right? Like if 10 people a month ask this question and all 10 of them land on my blog and all 10 of them are buyers, the conversion rate's huge.
Let's talk about that.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be high
volume.
It's so
simple.
It doesn't have to be high volume.
Well, so many people are familiar with the term long tail. And that I'm a long tail marketer. I've always considered myself to do that. So Matt and I have a different approach at content marketing on some days. But the long tail are the things that are really easy to be number one for. And they aren't high volume.
They're very low volume.
But you have to produce continual, consistent content in order to get it out there. And then once you stack up enough, that you have enough of those lines out in the sea, you start to catch more fish and it starts to pile up. And the best way to explain the long tail is to imagine downloads on something like iTunes or Spotify.
Yep.
And you have to picture a graph, and you have these monsters that are getting hundreds of thousands of downloads a day. And as you move right on the graph, it starts to very quickly look like Enron stock, like it's plummeting off a cliff. And then you have this long tail of ones that just go forever. Every day on those streaming platforms, those ones all add up to be more than the numbers that are higher than ones. And that proves that that's a really valid marketing. And that's a good way for a startup or you in the beginning, because you're not going to tackle the keyword earrings.
No.
Like there's just like, especially if your blog or whatever is new,
competitive.
it's too competitive. So you need to look at something, there's, riches in those niches. So where can your content, go?
I have to admit something.
Oh no.
I was the random person on Spotify that Googled. Listen to me, I said Googled. Searched for Backstreet Boys a couple days ago.
Is it because you're going to the show with me on the 7th in the full scale?
I was in the long tail, searching the deep archives
of the Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Well, getting
was
back,
not
I'm
something
not sure
super
you're
popular
the
these
only
days.
one that Googled.
That's brave of you
Backstreet
to
Boys.
announce that.
I mean, because I was doing it too.
so just to kind of summarize that long tail versus
Wait, you
short
don't want to
tail.
talk about the Backstreet Boys?
Deflect.
I mean, we can
move on.
Look, Brady, we can throw it up near the rim, but if you're not going to dunk it,
I'm gonna leave that alone. So yeah, earrings being that high level tail or high level term, but then you've got hoop earrings for women on sale in Kansas City.
That's
the long tail.
Yeah. And the thing is that's not going to get 10 million hits a day.
Nope.
But the whole purpose is to get the ones that matter.
The conversion rate's super high.
I love putting, so I did this with tickets when I was in the ticket business. So it would have been like Taylor Swift, Indianapolis concert tickets.
Yep.
And we'd write a blog about that. And when someone was looking for that exact thing, we'd come up really high on it.
Yep.
Let's talk about that, though, because I was maybe firing a spam cannon. I actually did really well with content marketing a long time ago, and then I got punished.
Because you could create a web page for every name of artist and every city, and all of a sudden that's like a million combinations.
Well, what we did is so long, but when Google wasn't as sophisticated as they are now, and this is like a cautionary tale. So on Startup Hustle, we like to talk about the things that were also big failures.
Oh, yeah.
I was killing it. We were getting thousands of visits a day. We had a bunch of sites that acted as marketplaces for buyers and sellers on tickets. And we were publishing blogs, and we figured out that by putting tags in the blogs, that each of those tags was a different page. It made a different URL, but it was the exact same article. So we would put like 30 tags in there and worked for a while, and then Google came out with the duplicate content penalty, and it crushed. That isn't even harsh enough. It was more dun 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 dun.
You were out of business the next
Darth
day.
Vader came down. He did that air choke thing on us. We fell to our knees, and I died. And
you were out of business the next day almost.
That part of our business was out. And okay, so to give you the feeling of what this feels like, okay, so one day you're making $2,000 a day in passive income, and then the next day you're not.
It's tough.
So I want you to just kind of stomach that as a listener. Like you're like, oh my God, you go from feeling like you're the smartest guy in the world to like the GOAT, and I don't mean the greatest of all time. I mean like the Billy Goat.
You were making $700,000 a year, and the next day you weren't.
Well, it went on. Yeah. So, but we found some other ways to do it, but it took a while. But the feeling, and I wrote about this $1 Million Bedroom because it was like I wanted to throw up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like it was terrible. And the thing is there's no coming back from that. We ended up deleting all the duplicate, any of it. Once you get that tag hung around, you are like, it's like the scarlet frickin' letter, man.
Yep.
You can't get rid of it. That particular site I closed it down.
And I think
never
this is
really
just
did anything again.
And this is a cautionary tale of doing anything to be overly black hat or spammy against Google. And over the years, this has changed dramatically, right? Of what Google can recognize and pick up, and in the old days,
eventually they're going to figure it out, and they're going to.
I mean, you can do a bunch of keyword stuffing and make the words look like they're white text so they don't show up on the page. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy shit people can do. And Google can figure it all out.
Yeah,
now.
and so obviously we've been talking a lot about just written content in Google, but you can also have a similar issue with social. Obviously, social is a huge driver of a lot these days. But much like Google changes their algorithms, obviously we've seen how Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter have been.
You got
easy.
it. There we go.
Easy,
Good
Brock.
job. Wait, hang on, Brock.
That's my bad.
Wow.
So
we really got to get.
That was a good one.
We got to get new coasters in here.
It's happened
That
to me.
happens about every third
Does it?
episode.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't
So
feel bad
you've
then.
got
don't.
these social networks that at one point it was really easy to get your social content in front of your organic audience.
Yes.
The people that follow you, your basic connections. But they have now switched that where it's basically a pay to play model to get any exposure, any reach on your social posts these days. So kind of in a similar vein as you had built this amazing Google ranking machine with your ticket business, and then Google makes one change and it's turned off the next day. Social has kind of seen that same type of thing. So the lesson there is don't build your house on rented land. Rented being Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You need to have your own property with your own content. And certainly you can still leverage social and certainly do experiment with boosting and those kinds of things to propel the reach of your individual blog posts and things, but drive them back to your own property because that's it's a much safer thing in the long term.
Speaking of social media, where can we find you guys on social media?
DivvyHQ everywhere.
Just everywhere.
Search it. Yeah.
On the gram, on the Facebook.
Yep.
They put the back in Facebook.
What?
No. Yeah. You were gone for a while, Matt. Things have changed.
Yeah,
since
maybe I
you've been
missed
back.
it.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it.
If you want to check out the podcast on Instagram, we're at Startup Hustle Podcast, and we follow you guys. So if you need to find Divvy, check out who we're following. We don't follow a whole lot of people, so congrats. You guys are in a very, very exclusive club.
Wow.
That feels good.
Yeah, don't get too excited about it. It's not that exclusive yet. So before we get to the back half of this, well, first off, we're so excited about what you guys are doing. We've partnered with you guys.
That's right.
I mean, we've made an investment in Divvy, and we don't have to get to. Yeah, thank you. We're happy to do it. I'm really excited about what you guys are doing. If you want to check out what Matt and I do at Fullscale, fullscale.io, but we help you guys build some of the tech now.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, to kind of speak on that a little bit, we paired up with you guys last year this time. I think it's been about a full year.
It's close. I think we're 1 month away from a year.
Yeah, and working really well. I mean, we have a really amazing kind of core dev team here in Kansas City. Our dev leadership is here, but we have developers down in Argentina, and then obviously working with you guys now in Cebu. And it's been a really, really great partnership, and we've had a lot of success, and it was kind of easy to roll up. And obviously, Matt, you have experience working with us, so that was just kind of natural.
I think we just added 3 new people like yesterday.
Yeah, thanks to this new partnership with you guys, and I think we're continuing to grow that team. I mean,
You're getting to full scale.
Well, I was going to say
honestly.
that's what we do, and like I said, we don't have to spend too much time on it. But you guys had some core initiatives and needs, and that here in the United States, it's hard to just all of a sudden go from 2 people to 8.
Yep.
Well, it's really hard because there's a lot of infrastructure and planning that takes place, and you want to make sure that you're getting the right team. It's all about
finding them.
It's all about the talent. And I think for us, we're in a very competitive market. We're in a fortunate position that we would consider ourselves one of the leaders, but we need to stay ahead of the market. We need to stay ahead of the trends. We got to keep innovating and evolving the platform, and so we're always trying to make sure that we have the absolute best team. And I think right now, we're really excited about the team we have, and pound for pound, from the dev team to everybody else in the company, we put them up against a lot of other teams.
Yeah.
We worked hard to build that team.
So, and thank you for your support, and we're glad to be partnered with you guys and make the investment in your future too. But there's something I know about Brody that Matt Watson might not know.
Uh-oh.
Is it Backstreet Boys?
Possibly related. Brody plays Mixtape.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
Like way past the point. He's been playing it for a while.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was a backer in there.
The
Kickstarter?
The Kickstarter,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah, I got my first deck in the Kickstarter and have been playing it most New Year's Eve parties. We break it out and with a whole bunch of friends, and it is always a hit.
So, well, you'll be excited to know that, we invested in Mixtape as well, and there's an app coming out.
Can't wait.
And it's going to be awesome.
Gonna make it so
I
much
played it
easier.
the other day. We're trying to finish making it awesome, but it's going to come out. But I think we should play Mixtape.
All right.
Yes.
So you guys
Let's do
ready?
it.
Let's do it.
Okay, first off, Watson never votes for me, so I'm glad to have both of you guys here just for a potential. He does occasionally. All right, so go to mixtapethegame.com if you want to check it out. I pulled a card out of the Mixtape deck. I'm going to read a scenario. Each of us are going to name a song that best fits that scenario. We will vote for the winner. You cannot vote for yourself.
This is going to be harder without
Pressure's
a
on.
laptop or a
That's
a
right.
phone.
I know.
Well, we don't play it because then we would have to pay royalties on the music, and
Well,
we're really cheap.
But if there was an app for that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. So the app's it integrates with your Spotify account.
Yep.
So you can,
cool.
So you can pick the songs and you can quickly search. It'll show them right there. You get to see what everyone else is picking. You vote for the winner on the screen, and then as the winner, it'll play your song.
Okay. Love it.
So it's
Can't
pretty
wait.
cool. Yeah, and it's exciting. You can invite all your friends easily through Facebook, and also it'll send you an invite text, and you can create a room of people. You don't even need to be in the same room with people.
Well, that's cool. That's interesting because Brody, I don't think, has ever invited me to play
Sorry.
Mixtape with him. So that's
There's two reasons.
Yeah.
Either he doesn't want to hear. You learn a lot about people when you play Mixtape.
You do.
Like
and
Matt-
the stories just flow.
Dude,
Yeah.
Watson thinks that Limp Bizkit is a song. Anyway, okay. You enter a maximum security prison for the first time. If you could pick one song that tells the other inmates not to mess with you, what would it be? You may not answer "Fuck You" by CeeLo Green. That is now banned as it is. It's like almost like a PED of Mixtape.
That is tough.
I think I've got mine, and mostly because my family are big Austin Powers fans. It's a hard knock life for
Nice.
us. You remember the Austin Powers segment?
You're going with the Jay-Z version or Annie?
Well,
Because there's a big difference.
I'm going with the Austin Powers and Mini-Me version
Oh,
from the movie. You remember?
Strong choice.
That's good. Do I have to go now or can I go last?
You're up.
Oh, jeez.
No one's asking me to pick. I'm just like over here. I'm kind of like normally I have an answer right away, and I'm kind of.
I mean,
struggling
that's a
with this
really hard
too.
one. And Brody, you're right. I mean, without some sort of laptop to kind of reference, that makes it challenging. I would say that it would be some sort of, I can't think of a song name, but some sort of like really heavy metal, just
All right,
crazy.
I'm gonna answer and buy you fools some time. I'm going
me
with
out.
"Mama Said Knock You Out."
Ooh, that's a
Oh,
good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah, LL Cool J.
LL
baby.
Cool
That's
J.
a good one.
That's a really good one.
Yep. I'm gonna knock you out. You guys better pick, or Brody and I are just gonna raise our hands together, listen to the Backstreet Boys, and declare ourselves as winners. You can just
What do
pick
you got?
anything.
I'm gonna go with.
I don't know. I can tell by the look on his face.
Oh man, there you go.
I don't.
By the way,
I'm blanking on
this
this.
is when Watson will like pick a song by Kesha.
Yeah.
He's like. By the way, the app has a timer on it, and you guys
we would
would have
lose.
probably
Yes.
run
Yeah.
out.
We'd lose.
Yeah, you can see who the players are over here.
Yeah,
got
I
this
know.
down.
I get it. The pros, the real pros.
All right, let's just vote for your two songs.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah, unbelievable. I don't even know if you deserve a vote.
Well, that's why.
Co-champions at this round of Mixtape, Brody Dorland and Matt DeCoursey. Wow,
Oh my god.
okay,
Thank you. I'll be here all week.
I know, but we won through disqualification.
Hey,
So,
I'll take
all
it.
right, let's do this.
take
Look, we're going to do a Rochambeau and see if you can
Oh.
beat me, because Watson, this is for the winner. Ready? On three.
Oh.
DeCoursey wins
All right.
again. Dude,
Damn it.
I'm
Darn scissors.
19-0.
Are you serious?
Yeah. How does that
Are
even
you really?
Yes. Dude, Watson's the Cleveland Browns of Rochambeau. But they might be good this year.
Yeah,
That's
I was
why
gonna
don't-
say,
that's
they
why I
might
don't
be
play 'em
pretty good.
anymore.
Do you go rock every time?
No.
Okay.
No, I really don't know. I just like channel
Sorry.
it. It's weird. It's funny.
Whatever comes to you.
Yeah, Watson beat me once. It was not on the podcast, and then he wanted to play me again for
So
a
it didn't
din-
really
for a-
happen
for
then,
a-
right?
for like $180 dinner tab one night, and he lost bad. So, and then he got banned from the league for cheating. He'll like come out and he'll be like throw a middle finger down. He's like, it's a paper, rock, and a scissors. I'm like, dude, you're out of the league. Okay, well, anyway, so once again, if you get a chance, go to Divvy. That's DivvyHQ.com. Check them out on social media. You can check out what Matt and I do at fullscale.io. Let's finish up by talking about your business as a startup, okay? Because you guys are a software as a service company. You've been around for a while. There's been some ups. There's been some downs. You guys get a lot of headlines and have won some awards. That stuff's great. What are a couple things that haven't been great that might have surprised you that we could use as cautionary tales to help someone else avoid the heartache of having to play Mixtape with Watson?
Wow.
Oh, wait. Chop the last part.
That's a good question, and I think that's a heavy question. I'm trying to think where we start with that. I think, the one thing I go back to is, again, we're competing at a global scale, and we're in a very competitive market, as we mentioned earlier. And when you're building a software company, you're not just competing against companies in your region, your city, right? You literally are competing against companies all over the world.
I have competitors in China.
Yeah,
Yep.
we have competitors all over, and with that, you gotta think big. You gotta be very bold. You gotta be very direct. And I think one thing that a lot of Midwesterns have kind of struggled with is the Midwestern niceties, the modesty of saying, "Hey, look, we're a pretty good product. We should help you. I think we're going to be a good tool for you." But we've had to kind of force ourselves to get a little more blunt and say, "No, we are the best product you're going to use. There's not going to be a better solution out there." And we just had a conversation with our team about this. Being around now for a few years. When you start developing software, it starts small. It's a pretty light application. But then over time now, you fast forward 8-9 years, we have countless hours involved in developing this tool. So now you look back and you go, whoa, this is a very robust application. And it kind of gives us that confidence going, no, it actually is the best tool. And I think we have to try to force ourselves to make sure that we are that confident and that blunt when we're talking with prospects, talking with customers, and it's not natural for us, right? And it's not, I think, natural for a lot of people, but competition is fierce, and our competitors are saying that. And again, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that marketers are picking the absolute best tool for whatever they need, and we want to make sure that we're helping them, and we make it clear through the process of letting them know that, we have a really sophisticated tool that's going to help you. But not just that, we're going to have this service that's going to be unmatched. And so not just a tool, but we're going to hold your hand and help you through this process. We're going to help you build out the plan, the strategy, and provide any guidance where we can to make sure that you guys are successful.
Yeah, another thing I would say is we had no idea that the marketing tech landscape was going to blow up the way it has. Back when
meaning in a good way.
Well, I mean, it's good and bad. So it's good that the VC community got heavily involved in the MarTech space. So we've been able to fundraise and that kind of thing. So that's good. But at the same time, we've got well, let me put it this way: if I'm a marketer today, obviously there's going to be a variety of software tools that I need to use to get our job done. And oftentimes it's a stack of tools. They've got a CMS, content management system of some sort that manages their website. They've got an email marketing solution. They've got social media tools. They've got a variety of things. And so if I'm a marketer and I'm trying to figure out which tools are going to fill my stack to get our job done in the most efficient way possible and hopefully least expensive, that I need to go find some of those tools. Well, the clear number of tools that are out there is just ridiculous. There are so many different types of tools. A lot of them have various levels of overlap. So you might have one tool that is an email marketing engine, but it's also a social media monitoring tool, but it's also an analytics engine. But I could go buy that thing, or I could buy individual platforms to do those different things. Very purpose-built, best-of-breed solutions. So as a marketer, it's really challenging just to navigate all of the technology that's available today, and make decisions to ultimately get to the stack of tools that are going to fit the needs of my team as much as I can.
Well, one of the biggest problems we have as a vendor, though, too, is figuring out which services do we provide, right? Are you only best of breed at one thing, or are you trying to do 10 different things? You're not very good at all of them.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's a constant struggle.
As a software company, you need to make that decision. And for us, being on the smaller side in terms of the obviously we're in the same technically in the same industry as like an Adobe. And so we're on the much smaller side versus them. So we need to make a decision that's smart for our business.
You got to be best of breed at something.
Best of breed at something very specific, and so that's what we've chosen to be. And but then we go up against a lot of others that are not just best of breed in this one area. They do some of what we do, but they also do a lot of other things. So we have to go to bat and go to battle. For marketers that are looking at both of us.
I mean, you guys, as an example, compete against every project management tool there is.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
But you guys are best of breed at project management for content.
Yes.
And there's some nuances to that you guys have mastered.
Yep.
That is way better than any other tool.
Exactly.
Well, that plays into advice that we give and talk about a lot all the time, especially for early stage businesses, is so many people, businesses, whomever, they want to try to be good at 6 things before they're good at one. And you have to be because what the result of trying to do that is at best you're going to be average at a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
And that doesn't give you any type of position, or I don't know, figure out how to be really good at something and then either become a lead at it or then figure out how to be good at other things too. But if you can't be great at one thing,
I mean, tying this back to content marketing, you might, through a strategy process and really understanding your buyers, you might find out that, okay, we probably need to do a blog, we need to have a YouTube channel, we need to have a podcast, we need to do some advertising, we need to do blah, 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 blah. We need to have an email newsletter. All of these things would be good, but if you're a small organization, maybe a one-man, one-woman show, and you can only really be able to do one thing well, pick the one thing, that one channel that would be advantageous to the business. Your audience is going to be there. They're going to appreciate the content in that space, and you can really do well at that. And then after you own that, you've proven that content marketing is working. You've been able to learn the topics and subtopics that are important to cover, and you maybe add to your staff. Then you can take on the podcast. Then you can take on the email marketing engine, whatever it is. So same type of thought process.
Yeah, and if you're trying to do 7 of those things before you're any good. Now, Matt, do you know we have a YouTube channel?
I do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we literally just opened it up. We had been, so I'll give you an example there is, okay, thank you for everyone that continues to listen because you are the reason we keep doing this. But with that, we were trying to figure out how to get the video right.
We were trying to do live stream and had
we had just a bunch of issues, and we kept kind of nixing it, and and eventually we figured it out. And you can watch us doing the podcast on our YouTube channel. Just look up Startup Hustle. But that was an example. There was times when we kind of tabled that and backburnered it, and then even at one point the cameras were kind of messing with the audio. They were just putting too much pressure on the computer, and it was making a little pop. Occasionally, and that was an example of that. We were trying to do too much at once, so we kind of move it back. We said we got to focus on what this is all about, which was the podcast, and then there's been some other resulting things that have come up with that, even like social media and different stuff like that.
Blogging about the podcast.
Yeah, and women's earrings.
Yes.
Which you are an authority on.
Yes.
So, well, anyway, guys, thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do some follow-ups with that, especially on some of the stuff related to the things we're all doing around our hometown of Kansas City. Thanks for everything you guys are doing.
Oh, thanks for what you guys are doing. This is great.
Yep.
Yeah,
you're bringing so much exposure to the Kansas City entrepreneur system. So
they're mainly here to listen. They're mainly here to listen to Matt. Right? Is that's how you do that,
correct.
guys? Yeah,
That's correct.
Yeah. Well, anyway, once again, if you want to check out what Master Watson and I do, you can go to fullscale.io. Also check out Matt's other company, Stackify.com. If you need to take bookings online, go to GigaBook.com. If you need to manage your content, go to Divvy, that's DivvyHQ.com. And all of us are all over the interwebs for a lot of different things. See y'all next time.